The following podcast contains explicit language because, frankly, I am tired of editing out Sonia's swearing. She cannot help it. It's a constant problem, and I'm just tired of dealing with it. So you've been warned.
Smith.
Here it comes.
Fuck you.
This episode of the Dorking Out podcast is brought to you by us. We are actually have produced a little video in association with friend of the show, Ben Waddell, about what is the real biggest movie of all time. We think you might enjoy it. We're going to have a link in the show notes to this episode. Also, the following episode is one of our year-end specials, and I have to caution you, I had a bit of a cold when we were recording this. I think I cut out all of the coughing, but if there's a little bit in there, I just have to apologize. I was crazy ill during the making of this episode. But now, enjoy the show. Enjoy our first part of our favorite stories of 2017.
Houston, flight is go.
Mila, let's go. SPM. Safety contact.
From Assignment X, Amalgamated Storytelling, and thesoniashow.com, it's Dorking Out with Sonia Mansfield and Christopher Allen Smith.
Welcome to episode 84 of Dorking Out, a podcast for people who like to dork out about stories and the stories and culture that we love. That means TV and books, podcasts and movies, and doing those things in a different order this week for some reason.
Oh my gosh, you are mixing it up for 2018.
And everywhere else, we find stories that interest us. This is the Best Stories of 2017, Part 2 edition. With me today is my co-host, professional writer, and author of the Sonia Show blog, Sonia Mansfield.
Hey there.
Hey you, how's it going?
All right. With me today is my co-host, Emmy Award-winning filmmaker and nerd author, Christopher Allen Smith. In our previous episode, we shared 5 out of our top 10 stories of 2017, and now we finish this. I'm pounding my fist.
That's right.
We will each share our final 5 favorites of 2017, and that can include movies or TV shows or books or podcasts, but I really think it's just going to be movies and TV shows. Is that correct?
It is, and yes, it is, and I will get to my
We don't
caveats.
really read.
That's right. Actually, I did read Ron Chernow's Washington. Actually, you know what? I'll just dive right into this.
Do it.
This is a book that I really enjoyed. It was great. But I just realized something.
Is it one of your favorite stories of the year?
It's one of my. It is kind of my favorite story of the year. Or this is the thing that I kind of noticed. Mm-hmm. Is that so? You hear all this stuff about Thomas Jefferson was so learned, or the leaders of America, or the leaders of princes and diplomats of Europe in that time. They were much more educated and erudite and all this stuff. And then you think, and I was reading this, and I was talking about how Washington loved a play, like an old Greek play. I think it was from an author called Cato. I could be wrong about that. But then he was also very versed in Shakespeare and stuff, and he would put Shakespeare references into stuff, like everybody would. But then I realized there was nothing else. There were no other, of course he's going to sound really smart, because anybody these days that mentions Shakespeare or quotes Shakespeare, there's a billion other things out there, and they've gotten onto Shakespeare, and, Shakespeare's one of the greatest, writers in English. But
if you're someone who sits around and quotes Shakespeare, you are probably one of those wussy poetry boys that I dated in college.
Maybe, I think those are the kinds of guys that pretend to know Shakespeare, but you ask them.
But they totally don't.
You ask them one quote beyond to
be or not to be.
To be or not to be, and they got nothing. Anyway, but I just realized is that Washington had almost no modern novels, the era of the novel had not really been going on for that long. There were no movies.
I heard back then they didn't have internet.
That's right. There were no movies. He didn't have any movies to quote. pretty much the only thing he had to quote was the Bible and Shakespeare. So of course he's going to look really learned, really smart, really erudite by our,
Well, of
our
course
standards.
you know everything when there's only two things to know.
Exactly. That's my point. That is exactly my point. Is of course he's going to sound like he knows all this stuff because back then there was almost nothing to know. There was
God, if I couldn't quote TV shows or movies, I would just have nothing to say.
Well, that's the thing. Is if you didn't have TV shows or movies, you'd still have novels. You'd still have music. You'd still have all the works of the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and Billy Joel, and that's about it. Those are the greats, right? No, and Bob Dylan. You'd still have a million things to quote. Back then, there were a couple pub ditties. Beethoven, which now that I think about it, I don't think Beethoven had even written his stuff.
All the songs were like, I like the Bible.
Pretty much.
La, 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 la.
Yeah, you got some.
And I like Shakespeare. La, 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 la.
You got some hymns. You got Shakespeare, and that's it. You have a couple of Greek tragedies, and boom, that's the whole thing. Washington probably took in as much culture in his entire life as a 16-year-old takes in over a summer these days. So my point is, it's very interesting, and I really liked it, and there's a lot of things to learn about the country and all that stuff, but this idea that we have that people in the past, they know so much more, and there's so much more studied, and there's so much more whatever, the list of things that they had to study was a hell of a lot shorter.
True.
So I'm not saying it was easy. I'm just saying, let's not put them up on pedestals for quoting Shakespeare. I guess that's my only point.
Can I tell you my random story about the Beatles?
Yes.
Something that happened to me a couple years ago. I went to a bachelorette party, and we're all sitting by the pool, and I've got my drink, my wine or whatever, and the song comes on, and two of the women at the party were like, I love this song. Me too. And they're like, yay, having a good time. And I was like, oh, this is a really good song. And I was like, who is this? And I swear to God, it was like the music stopped, and they look at me and they're like, it's the Beatles.
Okay.
And I felt
what song was it?
Such a stupid dumbass. I chugged my drink, chugged it. And I was like, my drink's empty. And ran off.
Well, okay, I hear you. I got it. But what song was it?
I think it was called Rocky Raccoon.
Oh, come on. That's not even in the top 50 of their songs.
It was just so but come on. When you hear the Beatles, it's the Beatles.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I really did not, and I was so embarrassed.
I wouldn't be embarrassed about Rocky Raccoon. It's not like it's, yesterday or Revolution Number 9 or something.
Well, the reason this story is even on my in my head is because it came up again at a holiday party where they were like, remember when Sonia didn't know the Beatles?
Oh God, who are these bitches that did this to you?
No, they're teasing me, but really the conversation was about how this is my move, basically, where I chug my drink and then I'm like, my drink is empty. That's my way of leaving a conversation.
That's funny. Wow.
And that's one of my favorite stories of 2017.
Exactly. Well, actually, it's funny because I'm feeling a little brotherly protective, you can't make fun of Sonia. I'm supposed to make fun of Sonia.
Yeah, that's
you don't make fun of Sonia. I'm supposed to belittle her and run her down, not you people.
No, nobody was being mean. It was funny.
Okay.
So, is that really one of your stories?
No, it wasn't. I just thought it was. It was one of the few. It was one of the few books that I finished, and I thought it was just a very interesting observation. And we've been meaning to have a segment on books that we've read for a while. I don't think it's going to happen for a little bit. So I just had to throw that out there. I've been carrying that around since the summer.
I did read another book this year, but it's not on my list. So.
All right. Well, you know what? Here's a problem. I guess we're gonna dive right into this list. I think in part one of this end of 2017 retrospective, I think we kind of looked at stuff that we kept movies mainly off of it because I think you and I were hoping to watch a few more movies.
I did some movies.
Right, and expect to see a few more movies, and then hopefully some more movies would be on this list. But for me, I think I'm having a crisis. I think I'm having not a midlife crisis. I'm having a movie crisis. I think I might have seen too many movies in my life. And I know that we've kind of joked about this and talked about this from time to time, and I'll get in these moods where it's just kind of like, oh, I don't really like anything. Even all this stuff's great, and it's not really connecting with me. And then I remembered back, I had a film teacher in college who was not a Star Wars fan. And
Which teacher was this? Because I'm sure I had this teacher too.
I can't remember his name. I really hate to say it because he was one of my favorite teachers, but the Alzheimer's is kicking in early tonight, and I cannot
Is it Chico, right?
Yes.
I know what teacher you're talking about, but I can't remember his name either because I don't remember names.
Glasses, mustache,
Yep.
Really nice guy, really smart guy, very encouraging. I feel guilty. I don't remember him. Anyway, he said he didn't really like Star Wars, and I did the thing that everybody in our generation did, which is, what the hell are you talking about, old man? This is a classic.
And then you punched him.
How the hell could you not like this movie? And he just said, well, I've seen a lot of, there's not a whole lot new in there. It's just Lucas took a bunch of stuff from a bunch of old movies, mix it together, boom, there you go. And I thought he was just crazy. Now I'm beginning to wonder if there is a limit that you hit that you've kind of seen the movies that Hollywood or even, Europe are putting out,
Then I think you need to broaden your horizons.
Movies in English. Well, maybe. And what I meant to say by Europe is kind of movies in English. I'm mainly thinking of British movies.
Right.
Maybe I need to do, but, I've seen a lot of foreign movies. And they're fine and they're great, but, a lot of movies are centered around similar themes, or they're centered around a lot of themes, but, even if you cast your net wide, you're going to see tragedies, you're going to see comedies, you're going to see this, and they all, because movies are about 2 hours long, because they usually have to follow a central protagonist to have a story that we think of as a movie, after a while, even movies that do things differently, you can kind of start to see the pattern, almost see the code in the matrix. And I'm just wondering if, because I'm having a hell of a time trying to make my list for 2017, but I don't think...
And I'm having the opposite problem.
Right. And I don't think it's a problem with the movies. I think it's a problem with me or my tastes or my mood or I don't know what. So that's where I'm coming in this very kind of strange end of 2017, beginning of 2018 time period where I'm just looking around for, I think maybe I might want to listen to more books or something.
That is so interesting because I found it this year. I saw more movies than I had in the last couple of years.
Me too.
Because I had a little baby, it's like going to the movies like once a year or something like that. And then watching things at home, like when they came on demand or whatever. And this year, thanks to or in 2017, thanks to the podcast, I was going to the movies like once a week, which is awesome and makes me super happy to be there. I love going to the movies. And so I saw a lot of really good movies that I was like, I really like these. I'll revisit these. I feel connected to these. These movies spoke to me, and like actually putting it on a list with TV was actually harder for me because I watched a lot of really great TV shows because we have so many options now for TV that you're going to find something that speaks to you. So, of course, I found things that speak to me, and then I try to rank them and put them on the same list. But it's harder because when it comes to TV, I'm like, I'm not going to revisit like a TV series necessarily and watch it from beginning to end because that's a time investment that I just don't have. But I will sit down and watch a movie again.
Right.
So then it's weird that they're on the same list, but I still love them. It's weird.
Yeah. No, I
had like too many things to put on the list, and then other things that like I admired
Right.
Like I put them here as like runners up on my list,
Right.
but they're more like I admire them. Like I admire like what they tried to do or how ambitious they were or that they were different than every other movie that came out or things like that. And but trying to narrow it down to just 10, and then like I said in the episode we did before this, like I found it really easy to make that list of 5 because I
Right.
was like, well, I have 5 more spots, and now these are my final 5 spots, and I've been debating this list like all week.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've kind of been going back and forth about mine, and I think something you said really struck me, which is you admire these movies more than you actually like them. And I am definitely in that space. Like I've seen several movies in the last couple weeks, trying to get in all the big movies for this year. And, a movie like The Darkest Hour about Winston Churchill, admired it, didn't love it, didn't freak out. It seemed like a big episode of The Crown, which is cool, but it's just like, I don't, there's nothing here that I haven't seen done just as well or better on Netflix. Detroit
Right.
came out in August, Catherine Bigelow's movie. I really liked it. It didn't really leave the impression that I thought, and I think you and I...
You liked it more than I did,
Yeah,
actually.
we talked about it at the time, and it was great, and I really liked it, but I would definitely prefer a 5-episode series telling that story.
Right.
And then I was thinking back, I feel like I had a strange reaction in our Thor Ragnarok review that I think might have taken you a little bit off guard, and I'm trying to been thinking about it, which is you were talking about Tessa Thompson as the Valkyrie,
Yeah.
and how she kicked ass.
Yeah.
And I kind of pushed back, and I didn't even really understand why I was pushing back, because she's a fantastic character that does kick huge ass, and I was thinking about it.
Well, you wanted her to have more than just that's her defining trait.
Right,
correct?
exactly. This
Okay.
kind of, A, more than this defining trait, but B, I don't think it's really with that character or even that movie. It's just the defining trait, because I was listing this. John Wick 2 came out. A lot of people are loving that. It's an action movie that I should be loving. Not really loving it. His defining trait is all he does is he's super competent and kicks ass.
Actually, John Wick and John Wick 2 are on my list of things to watch. I haven't watched them yet.
Right. I mean, they're good, but they're not, and they're talked about as some of the best action movies in years, but they're just not, they're just misfiring with me. Atomic Blonde, Charlize Theron, same trait. She's essentially a female John Wick that is just really super competent and kicks ass all over the place. And okay, I should have loved that movie. Didn't really.
If I could make a list of like top 10 like movie moments, Atomic Blonde would probably be on that list, but the movie itself is not on my list.
Right, and then like Baby Driver. Baby Driver, I love car chases. I love caper movies. But I'm almost kind of like, well, I've seen all the Ocean's 11 movies. I've seen Italian Job. I've seen all these things. I've seen Baby Driver. I've seen this movie. I've seen it a million times.
Baby Driver was on my list until 2 hours ago.
Right, but I mean, that's what I'm thinking is, and I'm looking at this, it's all these hyper competent, really put together, I don't know, action movies that are just, it's kind of like they're darts that are just kind of thrown at me and they just hit me in the forehead and fall off, and it's just like they have no effect. They should have an effect, and I'm noticing this theme. It's kind of like when 4 movies like, and then Logan, another movie which I think we're going to talk about. Actually,
we are.
You know what? Yeah. Well, but for me, I watched it with my son the other night again. I really liked it. I really admired it, but it just hit my chest and fell off. And when we're in a year where John Wick, Atomic Blonde, Logan, and Baby Driver all come out and people love them all over the place. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm just I don't know what's going on with me, Sonia.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on with you either.
We're recording my crisis of faith right on our very own podcast.
I'm so sorry.
So that's all right. Having said all that, and gone
That
through
reminds
all that,
me of that episode of South Park where I think Stan turns like 11 or 12 or something. Do you remember this one?
Oh, I think you're right.
And then everything that he watches just sounds like
yes, a little bit, and it's funny.
And then it's Jim Carrey and blah 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 and
pretty much. You know, because I just went to, and actually, there are 3 movies on your list that I would have kind of expected on my list, and when I thought about putting them on my list, it's just, I don't know, they just don't hit me. And my list also looks like the list of a 15-year-old boy. You know, I don't know what that says, but when I look at the lists that are on there, it's kind of like, this is a very, very narrow slice of all of the stories that are out there. I think it's interesting because when it comes, it illustrates to me the movies that what I'm looking for in movies is a very specific, relatively narrow thing. When it comes to stories that I like, you know, I think you and I have gone through a million stories. You know, there's Amazon, there's PBS, there's HBO, there's Netflix. There's a million places to see a lot of really, really great things. Laura and I were just finishing up The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel because that's a great show.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like all of my period pieces, all of my dramas, all of my interpersonal comedies, all of that I'm looking to TV at now. You know, so which I don't know what that means. There's a very few things that I feel like are essential to go to the movies for, and I don't know what that means. But anyway, now that
That's so interesting because I'm having, I think, the opposite.
That's great. That's good.
So
all right. It could, maybe I'm just, you know what would be awful is if I'm just in a weird mood this week and then I come back in like 3 weeks and it's just like, oh my God, no, here's my list. War for the Planet of the Apes.
What have I done?
Oh my God. Wonder Woman. Oh, I should have, oh no, disaster artist. But yeah, so, but I am going into this list, and this is the last I'll say in my ramble. Phantom Thread, The Post, and Call Me by Your Name I have not seen yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of those either.
So,
should we just jump into how much I love Logan?
Let's do that.
You already brought it up.
Let's do that. Yes, let's hit it.
Logan was one that was like kind of teetering on my list for a while with Baby Driver. I just couldn't decide. And decided to watch Logan again kind of right before we started recording. And I was like, yes, this is the one. I find the X-Men movies to be kind of hit or miss for me. But I do always love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Mm-hmm. I really loved Logan. When I saw it in the theater, I think I gave it a 9 on our scale of 1 to 10. I watched it again just before this, and I still love it. Like I love that it just opens with, here you go. Wolverine is like, he just full on murders people, like you know, just in a really gruesome, messed up way, like in a way that you just never saw, or at least I don't remember seeing in the X-Men movies.
Right.
And then introducing the little girl, I think she's really great. I love Patrick Stewart. I like, you know, they have that nice family dinner, and it's such a wonderful scene. And like the awful violence that happens after that is so heartbreaking. And I just think it's a really good movie. I was like, I will go back to this one. And that's what I look for when I'm making this list. Like, I'm looking for things that I connect to or move me or make me think, or, you know, that I'm going to come back to. And, you know, I think I will watch Baby Driver again. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it very easily could have been on the list, but for some reason I felt like it had to be Logan.
Right.
So there you go.
It
Logan.
is. Yeah, I mean, Logan is really good. And I realized while I was watching, I was like, man, this is really good. Maybe I should put it on the list or whatever. But I think for me, ultimately, it could just be the year that we're in. It's a very depressing movie. Like it's really like when you
it's very depressing.
They make references to the first X-Men movie in it, and then you realize kind of, oh, they've come from there to this place where they're all hunted and on the run. Even before the movie starts, they're nearly extinct. And it's just, and to think that, okay, they got the kids across the border or whatever, but, you know, the forces of evil that have, you know, hunted them to this point are not going to let the Canadian border stop them. So they're all dead 20 minutes after this movie's over anyway.
You don't know that.
I don't know that, but it's, I don't know.
Don't ruin Logan for me.
Sorry. But no, I hear you. And it is a really good movie, and I really did admire the way that they take a character that we've seen on screen for almost 20 years, and they bring him to this specific, definite end, which I really like. I'm actually, you know, it's funny, I've heard rumors that they're looking to do some sort of Logan situation in the next James Bond movie, which is tell the final James Bond story and maybe kill him off.
Oh, no, they shouldn't do that.
And I got to tell you, I love that idea.
No, I don't like that idea.
If you're going to stop the James Bond movies and kind of restart them with another actor or whatever, that's a James Bond movie we've never seen before. So anyway.
I guess that's true.
All right. My number 5, I think, is very illustrative of how narrow my interests have become when it comes to movies, which is, this is just the Marvel slot. This is just Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Man Homecoming, and Thor Ragnarok. And it's funny because I will freely admit none of these movies have as much going for them as Logan in terms of storytelling and theme and whatever, and all the things on this show that I profess to love. But, you know, now that we're making this list, I knock Logan off and put in these 3 enjoyable, relatively frothy, relatively light movies. But there's just something that I love, really appreciate, and just can't get enough of this level of Marvel putting out these movies that are dependable, they are fun, they are enjoyable, they are now coming every 4 months.
You are such a whore for Marvel.
I am I am 100%. I am guilty of this. Yeah. No, you're 100% right. I have no leg to stand on. It's just it's a dependable time at the movies. You know, well, you know what it is? Each one of these movies makes me feel like I'm a 10-year-old boy again watching some great kick-ass, you know, movie. With a lot of humor and light and fun. I think that's the thing, and maybe that's another thing, like the John Wicks and the Atomic Blondes and the Logans, is they're just so crushingly serious. They're humorless, and I just can't stand those movies. And that's, you know, one of the reasons, the only DC Universe movie that's sticking with me at all after the last couple of years is Wonder Woman, because there's some humor in it. All the other ones have kind of faded into this gray background that I can't even tell them apart. So, yes. So, number 5, the Marvel movies. I've watched all of them more than once. So I think that kind of qualifies for...
I think that's true.
Your thing. So yeah, what is your number 4?
So I saw my number 4 last night, and I know you've already seen it too. I loved The Shape of Water.
Why did you love that movie?
I just loved it. It just spoke to me, I guess. I love the performances in it. I loved the love story in it. I know you think it's probably stupid, but I just really enjoyed it. And there was like, I'm watching the movie and I'm like, I like this, I like this, I like this. And then there's a moment in the movie where I was like, oh. And I leaned over to my husband and I said, they made this movie just for me. Like this. And I love when that happens, when you have like, there's a scene in a movie that you're like, oh, that's for me.
Was it the dance sequence?
What?
Was it the dance sequence?
Yeah, it was.
No, seriously, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
I was like, that's for me.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. I think Richard Jenkins is a national treasure.
Yes.
He should be in every movie.
100%.
I thought Sally Hawkins was amazing.
Yes.
I thought Michael Shannon was really good, even though he plays that role a lot, I think.
Oh my God, does he play that role all the time?
But he's really good at it. And
God.
there was so much about the movie I loved. Like, I mean, I love the look of it. And of course, it's going to have a really interesting look, right? I mean, you know, Guillermo del Toro has made
Benicio del Toro
has made, you know, Pan's Labyrinth and Hellboy and Hellboy 2. And, you know, they all have very specific, Crimson Peak, you know, they all have very specific, you know, looks about them. And I think that this movie is also has that kind of look. But I just love like this kind of who Sally Hawkins, like, so she's kind of falls in with the creature from the Black Lagoon, basically. And I love her friendship with Richard Jenkins, how he doesn't even like really bat an eye at like this. Like, he's like, yeah, sure. What? Right. Okay. A creature from the Black Lagoon. Like, they're fine with it. And like Octavia Spencer plays her coworker, and she's also like, yeah, sure. Why not? You know, and it's because like he's, you know, this is set in the 50s, I believe. He's a gay man. She's a black woman. Like, they're all outsiders.
Right. Right.
And I really was very moved by the story. I really enjoyed it. It didn't go exactly where I thought it was going to go. And I always appreciate when that happens too.
Right. Yeah. You know,
I'm wondering what it just didn't connect for you, huh?
For some reason.
I was very moved by it. I really, really enjoyed it.
It felt engineered for me to connect with. It's got this great retros 50s, 60s sci-fi element. It's got the creature from Black Lagoon stuff. It's got this cool kind of mysterious creature. But then it seemed like Guillermo del Toro was so in love with this idea and so in love with, I'm going to make this magical realism sci-fi whatever thing, that he seemed 2 or 3 stops too pleased with himself. And I think the dance sequence was just, it's like, what is this? I don't know.
And that's when I fell in love with it.
Well, yeah, and that's when I went, all right. For me, it kind of came off, and I don't really feel this way, but I'll be a little harsh in the way I describe it. It's like an adult fan fiction version of E.T. This is the Twilight version of E.T.
How dare you? How dare you even mention Twilight in the same breath as The Shape of Water? My husband thought it reminded him a lot of Amelie.
I don't believe I've seen Amelie.
You should see Amelie. It's wonderful. And it's one of David's all-time favorite movies. And when this was over, he was like, this reminded me a lot of Amelie, actually. And I feel like, I don't know, there's just not a lot of movies like this out there, and I like it.
Yes.
More than like it, I love it.
Let me step back. I shouldn't have said that it was the Twilight version of E.T. It's the 50 Shades of Grey version, which started out as fan fiction of Twilight.
I know that.
That's what I meant. This starts out as fan fiction of E.T. and then was morphed into something else. No, but...
Yeah, let's all listen to Smith. Hey, Smith, what's your 4th favorite Marvel movie of the year?
For all of my ball busting, I will freely admit that it just could be that this just didn't hit me right. I wasn't in the mood, even though I thought I was in the mood. So this is a very magical movie. For those of you that are irritated by my Wes Anderson bashing, I think I might be almost on the edge of doing some Guillermo del Toro bashing. Sonia and I joked about him being the Wes Anderson of sci-fi, that maybe I just can't get into his movies. So I am saying this could just be me. I totally freely admit this just might be me. So
It's just you. Did you, by the way, have you seen the preview for the new Wes Anderson movie?
yes. Oh my
It's
God.
I'm gonna love it
Oh
so
God.
much.
I am gonna hate that from start to finish. You know what? We should watch. Let's watch that when that
No,
comes out.
we're definitely gonna watch
Yeah,
it.
we're gonna have to have a discussion of Wes Anderson on this movie.
Yeah. What's your next pick? What's your
My-
fourth favorite Marvel movie this
My
year?
next pick is the more we talk about this and the more I think about this as we're going back and forth here, I think I'm just looking for spectacle in movies. There's got to be something that's particular and special about seeing these particular stories on the big screen. And I think that might be the running theme of kind of what I'm going for here. So I would say that my number 4 is Pixar's Coco, which
That's a great movie. Great
is
pick.
just a sweet, fun, beautiful little story that definitely takes us to a place that we've never seen before. Definitely, or that I've never seen before, I should say. Definitely.
You've never
delves-
been to the land of the dead?
No, I haven't.
Oh,
you
you
know,
should go sometime.
it's just so magical, so different, and this is going to sound very condescending white guy, but this is a kind of when we talk about diversity in movies, this is a kind of movie that I think is ideal because it looks into different cultures, it connects with different cultures, but it brings that into kind of the grander traditions of storytelling on film, and it's just this perfect mesh of something that we're kind of familiar with, which is fantastic Pixar images and storytelling, put to a subject that not everyone gets to see, put to a subject that's, diverse, and it's just the music is beautiful, the sentiment is great, the story is very relatable. I just love this movie.
Yeah, there's a lot to love.
It's I don't really know what else.
We did a whole
articulate
podcast
this.
about it.
We did. So Coco, fantastic. Actually, we did a podcast about all these kind of things. So the rest of this episode should take 5 minutes. So Sonia Mansfield, what is your next choice?
I'm going to share my last television pick, which was Glow on Netflix. The Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling TV series with Allison Brie and Mark Maron. It is one of those shows that I was like, I don't know what that is, but I saw Allison Brie was in it, and I was like, sure, I'll watch the first one. Next thing I knew, I had watched the entire series.
Yeah.
Like sitting in the airport waiting for my plane, watched almost the entire series.
Holy smokes. How long were you waiting for that plane?
A long time. There were a lot of delays. It was awful.
Wow.
But watching Glow was not awful. I really loved it. I thought it was super fun. I think I love that the 80s-ness of it, but it's not like cartoony 80s, but it is very 80s.
Right.
I think Mark Maron is really great in it. I don't know anything about the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. Somehow this phenomenon missed me completely. On Saturday mornings, people were watching this. I didn't even know about it. Did you ever watch it? I think we talked about this.
No, I'm not a wrestling guy.
No, I mean, when I was a kid, I watched cartoons until Bandstand came on, and then I was out. So I don't know when this was on, but it's a really great series. It's got a lot of really great characters. It's got a lot of diversity, a lot of different women from different backgrounds, all like kind of working on their wrestling characters. I like how strong they are. Like even if they're maybe not strong in their personal lives and working out their issues or things like that, but I like how physically strong they are. It's a really great show.
Cool. Yeah, no, I really like it, and it probably could have made it onto my list if I was in a different mood. So,
What's your next pick?
my next pick is kind of probably would be expected by a lot of people, but I'm a little surprised for myself that this is actually on my list, which is Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
Oh, I'm not surprised that's on your list. Of course it is.
You know, because it feels like, oh, Chris is a Star Wars guy, loves Star Wars, of course it's going to be on this list. But, you know, I went through, you know, something that we discussed on our Star Wars review show, kind of a little bit of a roller coaster with this, and I still am not, I'm not going to say I'm feeling uneasy, but I'm still, you know, it's a different kind of Star Wars movie.
But you loved it. You were ranking it super high.
I know.
Are you having regrets?
I'm not having regrets. I think it's shifting a little bit. I don't know if I would put it as high because it does still truck in some of the images from the original movies, and I wish it had been a little bit more original in some of its settings. Like, I'm thinking specifically of the Salt Planet, the Walker fight on the Salt Planet, which is, you know, okay, we get walkers walking across a big white space, and they could have done something else. But I really like the examination of the complexities of what it is to be a hero. You know, we all have these kind of cartoony images of, oh, I'm going to be a hero and I'm going to do the right thing all the time, and you know. But a lot of the stories that I like, and this is, I think, one of the reasons I love The Dark Knight so much, is because there's, you know, we all try to go through life being good people, doing good things, doing the right thing, but there are situations
Speak
that
for
come
yourself.
up. That's right. You know, there are situations where you come up against people or you come up against situations where to do the right thing, you might have to get kind of dirty, or you might have to do what seems like the wrong thing, or you might have to, you know, when you come up against the Joker and you have to get down to his level to beat him, what are you going to do? Or in The Last Jedi, when Luke realizes, oh, I am trying to train this young Padawan, and he's turning to the dark side, and it could be another Darth Vader, so what do I do? Like, that's a real, serious, ethical situation, you know, kind of a kill Hitler type situation.
Right.
Which I think a lot of Star Wars fans are not happy that, you know, they dealt with the complexities like that.
I have to say the backlash just makes me love it even more.
Well, you know what? I hear you, but I'm really suspicious of the backlash. I don't know a lot. I don't know how much I'm just saying, I don't know how much of a backlash there is. There seems to be a vocal, technically minded group of people on the internet that want to give the impression of a backlash. I don't really see it. Everybody I've talked to, Star Wars fans that I would expect to love, hate it, whatever, almost all of them like it. I mean, as many people that I know gushed about this movie as gushed about The Force Awakens. This movie, and Force Awakens did have its detractors, did have its people saying it was kind of a remake of A New Hope, but they still kind of liked it. This, for me, the people that don't like The Last Jedi seem to be about as numerous as the people who didn't like The Force Awakens. And The Force Awakens doesn't have this
I have to say, I haven't read like any of the articles about it because I don't give a fuck what people think. I like the movie, so I haven't bothered really. I just see it like being tweeted out where people are, you know, like, hey, what, you know, why do you guys all hate it? And I mean, we should keep in mind there was a huge backlash against the prequels. Right. I mean, we've done whole episodes about it and like had people who made documentaries about it.
That's right.
On our show. Like, so the idea that somehow, you know, there's a specific group of people that don't like The Last Jedi, what the fuck's wrong with them? Well, let's keep in mind there was also another group of people who really hated the prequels.
And they watched every one of them. And they're still talking about it.
And they, you know, and they made their own cuts of the Star Wars movies. Right. And, you know, and you watch this until you get to this part and then you watch the other one, you know, all this stuff because they wanted it to be exactly what they wanted it to be. You know, I guess they have the movie in their head that they want to see and it's not on screen and they get pissed off.
Right.
And I think that's the same thing that happened here. Like people have what they want it to be. And it's like, oh, if only these pesky writers and directors hadn't ruined the story I built in my head.
I do think that there is that contingent of professional, or I shouldn't say professional because I don't think they're getting paid, but kind of amateur prognosticators and armchair writers.
Yeah. Well, also, like, just because people tweet shit out doesn't mean it's worth, like, writing about and making stories out of. Like, we see it with politics, too. You know, it's like they tweet out, they do a whole story based on, like, a bunch of things that people tweeted. And then you see the tweets and it's, like, these stupid jackasses that don't even have icons. They're, like, you know, with their, like, 5 followers. And I was like, who cares what Rob2341B thinks about anything? Who cares? He has 2 followers.
Well, yeah, I definitely think that there is
and
an
there
aspect.
Is parents.
There is an aspect. There is an aspect of entertainment writers trying to write the contrarian story about Star Wars, and whenever you want to write a contrarian story about anything going on these days, you go to Twitter, you get 5 screen captures of people that seem to be spouting off about whatever angle you want to take, and then away you go. So, yes.
Anyway,
Star Wars The Last Jedi.
The only reason that wasn't on my list is because I knew it was on your list. So
because I am that predictable, even though I didn't think it was going to be on my list until a couple hours ago. But
well, there you go.
What are you going to do? All right, what's your next movie, Sonia Manson?
So my next pick is Lady Bird, which
never heard of it. Just kidding.
No.
We did do an episode on this, didn't we?
It's about Big Bird's girlfriend.
Oh God, Sonia, you know you're saying that as a joke, but what I wouldn't give to watch a movie about Big Bird and his girlfriend. Oh, I love Muppets so much. Oh, it would be insanely cute. Oh, can you imagine? Oh, can you imagine Big Bird's wedding with all the Muppets there? Oh my God!
All right.
Let's
start working on our fan fiction after we record.
Oh man. Okay. Anyway, sorry, Sonia. Lady Bird.
I just feel like written and directed by Greta Gerwig, set in Sacramento. So, you know, that's a Northern California vibe to it that I think maybe really connects with me. I just feel like it's one of those movies I feel like we don't see a lot of these anymore. It's, you know, a smaller, very talky movie about, you know, a coming of age movie that isn't like precocious. The teenagers talk like teenagers.
Yes.
With real problems, not like my boyfriend's a vampire problems. Not that those movies aren't fine, whatever. They're not. But anyway, I know people like them. But she has real problems, and like the idea of the kind of her relationship with her mother and her relationship with herself and what she wants to be, and you know, it's just such a good movie. Yeah. And I feel like these are the kind of movies that we used to get a lot in the 90s when indie movies were becoming like the thing.
Yes.
And we don't really get them anymore, or at least I feel like we don't.
Yeah. No, you're right. Well, last year we did get Edge of 17.
Which I still haven't seen.
Oh, Sonia, you got to see that movie.
I know. It is on my list. And
I believe it was on my list last year, and it's almost on my list this year.
Well, I saw Lady Bird, and I saw around the same time I saw another movie called Patti Cakes, which I kind of put on my list of movies I admire. And it was also about like a young girl who, like an overweight white girl who wants to rap. But it's also about so it's kind of like an 8 Mile, but with a young white girl instead of Eminem. But it's also about her relationship with her mother. And I was just so struck by how you can tell like the same story of like a girl's relationship with her mother and tell it in 2 very different ways, and how there's just so many stories to tell. And but I like Lady Bird just a little bit more. So Patti Cakes is on the runners-up list.
All right.
I think Lady Bird, I think Laurie Metcalf could win the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress.
She did do a fantastic job. I'm interested to see.
And when she wins, I'll say, "Go, Jackie!"
Is that a Roseanne reference?
Yes.
Okay. Wow, that's a blast from the past. All right.
What's your next pick?
My next pick is kind of a dud. I'm really heartbroken, even though this is a sequel.
Your pick is a dud?
Well, kind of.
So why is it on your list?
Because it's a good movie. It's a good movie. I do feel like I'm in this weird...
you mean like a box office dud?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like, I don't really like this movie, but it's on my list. I'm like, what?
What am I going to do?
What are you going to do? It has to be on my list.
Well, yeah. My movie is Blade Runner 2049. It is the 30 years in waiting sequel to Blade Runner. So that's 2 for 2 in the underperforming Blade Runner releases. I don't think we're getting another movie in the Blade Runner universe, which is sad because Denis Villeneuve's this movie is gorgeous, really great.
This one is gonna be one of those ones that you start seeing the articles where it's like, how come people aren't still talking about Blade Runner 2049? I think it's underappreciated now, and people are going to love it like 5 years from now.
I agree, and
it's beautiful to look at.
It is, and that is definitely true. It is just unbelievably gorgeous, and that was one of my happier surprises when this movie came out, is that they were able to hit the same vibe, hit the same haunting beauty, hit the same weird retro future that the original Blade Runner did, but not do it in a kind of, hey, remember this? Not do it in this Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, The Force Awakens. Even though I like The Force Awakens.
Deckard doesn't like hide in a refrigerator from a blast.
Exactly. Where it's just like where the filmmakers and the screenwriters are just pounding on the nostalgia bell. It builds on the themes and the meaning of the original, while still just being spectacular and haunting and sad and strange, and just I really like it a lot. It is one of the few movies that when I think about the movies of 2017 comes back into my mind without me having to kind of consult a list of 2017 movies. Mm-hmm. So yes, Blade Runner 2049. I'm hoping it's going to get some Oscar love, but I don't think we're seeing a lot of indications of that yet.
I don't think so, but maybe I'm sure we will for like visual sound mixing, things like that. But yeah. I seriously doubt we'll see anything for like writing, acting, directing, anything like that.
I hope Roger Deakins gets a nomination and an Oscar for it. Yeah,
it's a gorgeous movie.
It's insane. It's an insane movie. He's the cinematographer, and he's done a lot of the Coen Brothers movies. He did Skyfall. He's done a lot of the insanely gorgeous movies over the last 20 years. I believe he's been nominated a couple times. Or maybe
I think he's been nominated like 20 times, and I don't think he's ever won. Is that correct?
No, that's the thing. He's never won, and it's just like, what's a guy got to do to get an Oscar with the work that this guy has done? But anyway.
Didn't he shoot The Man Who Wasn't There? Was that him? Do you remember this? The black and white.
I believe it was, yeah.
The black and white movie with Billy Bob Thornton. You should look it up.
Yes.
I remember thinking that movie was absolutely gorgeous. And I was like, surely he would win.
Yeah.
And he did not.
He did. Yeah, he did Blade Runner 2049. He's done most of the Coen Brothers movies. He did, Man. Yep, he did The Man Who Wasn't There, A Beautiful Mind, Intolerable Cruelty, No Country for Old Men. Come on. The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford.
God, that movie was awesome.
He did True Grit.
For Christ's sake.
He did Skyfall. Give this man an Oscar. Jesus.
Give this guy his Oscar.
God, he's also really old. They should be getting to the point where I hope they don't. I hope he's not one of those people that nominated for 13 Oscars.
Yeah.
Come on.
Give him his Oscar.
Let's
start the campaign right now.
I think he's...
Hashtag
Give him his goddamn Oscar.
Hashtag give him his goddamn Oscar.
Jesus.
That's a really long hashtag.
It is, but well, it's 280
we have all
characters now.
We have all the characters now. It's
That's
fine.
Right. That's right. So, what is your last pick?
Okay. By the way, my picks, they're not in any particular order. I should make that clear. Because I wouldn't necessarily put this as my ooh, this is number one. But I loved it enough to put it in my top 10. And it is the movie It, which I am as surprised as anyone that this is on my list.
Why are you surprised?
And if you had told me this time last year that It would be on my list, I would have laughed at you. I would have thrown a drink in your face and laughed at you.
You would have said, what a horrible year for movies.
There is something about this movie that really did it for me. I don't know if it's... Well, I think it was a perfect storm of things. So I was very afraid to see this movie. Mm-hmm. I have not read the book. I think I watched the miniseries a long time ago. I remember really liking the first half and not the second half. I think that's the way everybody is. But my niece, Lorelai, who's 15, really wanted to see it, and she wanted me to see it with her. So we went to go see it, and I just loved it. And I loved the way it made me feel, and I loved how scary it was. And I thought the kids were great. It was, very... I think Stranger Things really laid the groundwork for me to appreciate it, in that, because it's kind of got that 80s riding our bike around the neighborhood vibe that I like.
Right.
And I just thought it was really terrifying in a really great way. And I loved it. And I've been thinking about it a lot, and I've been thinking about buying it so that I have it here. And then it just started this whole thing for me where I was like, oh my God, I do like horror movies. And I started watching all these horror movies at home that maybe I wouldn't have watched if I hadn't seen It.
No kidding. All right. Well, great.
The thing is, I used to watch horror movies when I was younger, and then I kind of just went through a phase where I was like, no, I don't like being scared. It makes me feel anxious, or the world's bumming me out, and the last thing I need is a horror movie because it's scary enough out there. And it turned out it was the opposite. I needed it.
No kidding.
So the way It made me feel, it's like It and Get Out, two different horror movies, but there was something about It that I didn't know I needed it. And then when that sounds terrible. I didn't know I needed it.
But I got it, and it was great. And I'm going to say it 20 more times in this review of It.
I really did need it.
Because it is it. All right,
I've said it a million times on the podcast about it was so nice to be scared of something that wasn't the news. And it was such a release.
Right.
That I was craving it. And I came home and I watched Tales of Halloween, and I watched The Thing, and I watched The Witch and The Love Witch, and what else?
The Love Witch? What is that?
Oh my God, The Love Witch is amazing. It's awesome. That was a Patrick Bromley recommendation. He talked about it a lot on F This Movie, so I finally watched it. Super loved that one. I watched Monster Squad. Not as scary, but fun.
Right.
Kind of a Goonies, Universal monster type movie. Really good. Anyway, so It. Surprise, which, like I said, I'm very surprised.
No kidding. All right. Well, great. My last movie is not something I'm going to rap on about because we've talked about it several times. In fact, you talked about it last week. I wasn't sure if it was going to make the list because I was mentioning I was having so much trouble making this list. But my last pick is Get Out. And I kind of did rank these movies by ones
is
I
Get
liked
Out
the
your
least.
number one?
Get Out is my number one. It's fantastic. I love it.
I would say if I ranked mine, Get Out would probably be my number one as well.
Yeah.
Or pretty close.
It does the thing that I say I like all the time, which is it takes sociological themes, or it takes, real meaningful themes, melds them with a fantastical element, executes in a very creepy, crazy, engaging way, and it's just, that's the kind of movie. You know what it is that movie definitely sticks with me. It definitely pops to mind when I think about the movies of 2017. And usually when I try to make a list of movies at the end of the year, there's enough movies at the status that hit me the way Get Out hit me that it's easy to put something together. But for me, Get Out and Blade Runner maybe, and, I have a list of 5 movies here. I would be really struggling to come up with 10, I think. But yeah, it's Get Out is just does everything so well. I do want to watch it again. I haven't watched it again since it was in the theaters, but I definitely am kind of waiting for the right time and looking forward to watching it again.
Yeah, I watched it again last week in prep for part 1 of this podcast to see if it held up for me. I was wondering like, oh, will the magic have worn off? Once you know everything, will I still like it kind of thing. And so I rewatched it and I loved it even more. So
ooh, yeah,
that's why I was like, it needs to be like high up on the list.
So, all right.
Can we should repeat everything that's on our 10.
Yes.
I think for everybody. And I also have like a couple, I want to mention some of my runners up. Can I do it really fast?
Yeah, actually we should do that because I'm actually kind of interested. I listed some movies that I would have expected to be on my list that are not anywhere on my list, and I'm kind of shocked by that. But anyway, hit your movies.
So I already mentioned Baby Driver really was like this close to being on the list. I really enjoyed Baby Driver. It is a really good ride. Like I said, Patti Cakes was pretty close to being on the list. The Big Sick. I love The Big Sick, and I was really hoping it was going to be on your list.
It almost was.
Talk about it.
It almost was.
I think doing romantic comedies is really hard.
Yeah.
And this is a really good one with like legit reasons for why the couple isn't together and a deal, and it's a true story. It's really funny and really sweet. A really great movie. And I loved Girls Trip, which almost made this list, but there was like one little thing where I was like, if it didn't have that, it might have made the top 10.
No kidding. I will not ask what that thing is.
You're all, I don't care.
Kind of, a little bit.
Well, other people might care. There's a whole thing with like a cheating husband in it. And the woman can't just leave her husband because he's a cheating husband.
Oh.
Like she has to leave him because there's another man to like take his place. And I feel like it goes against like, I don't know, the message of the movie.
Right.
Which is like, she's got her friends or sisters to like, and you guys be strong and they help each other out and all these things. And it's like, well, and she also has like the perfect man just sitting there waiting for her to like leave her husband. So like if that part hadn't have been there, it might have made the top 10. And then I know you don't like this movie, but I wanted to mention Colossal.
Well, I wanted to like that movie. I
really liked it. Just it went a little bit off the rails for me around the end.
Yeah, me too.
But leading up to that, I really, really liked it.
I loved the idea. Actually, you know what? This movie kind of strikes me a little bit like The Shape of Water, which is, I should have loved this movie. This seems like such a great idea, but for some reason the execution just left me flat. I don't know, but I hear you.
There was something about where the story went. It didn't quite work for me.
Yeah.
But up until that point, I was on board.
Yeah.
I really liked it. And I liked, it was very different, and I liked that.
Yeah. No.
And then I just wrote down a couple TV things. Obviously, Game of Thrones was awesome. Yep. The documentary series The Keepers on Netflix was really great.
Haven't seen it yet. I hear it's
really
great.
Good.
I'm a little nervous about it.
Have you watched Too Funny to Fail?
Yes. Too Funny to Fail.
Okay. David and I just watched that one the other night.
Oh, yeah.
And it's awesome because, and for people who don't know, it's a documentary about the Dana Carvey show on ABC and kind of what went wrong. Like, I think they recorded 8 episodes, 7 of them aired.
Right.
And it has this amazing, so it's Dana Carvey, Louis C.K., Stephen Colbert, Stephen Carell, Robert Smigel, who does Triumph, the Insult Comic Dog. And it is just so funny and crazy and frustrating. And it makes me want to go back and watch the Dana Carvey show, which I'm totally going to do.
Yeah.
And I also really loved Planet Earth 2.
I have not seen it yet. I will see it, though.
That was big news in this house. We went through that really fast.
I should definitely. That would, that might be a nice change of pace. I think, gosh, I'm wondering if I'm almost blaming the podcast.
You know what?
For my
you should
fatigue.
Watch some things that are, like, my husband and I watched a lot of, like, the Great British Baking Show.
Yeah.
You know, things that are really mellow, not story driven.
Maybe.
Not mentally taxing.
You might be right.
Planet Earth 2 really fits the bill.
Definitely. All right.
Do you have any runners up?
I have the one runner up is the first half of Wonder Woman. It's funny.
Oh, also known as one of my top 10 movies of the year.
Exactly, which is I was expecting this to be on my top 10 when I came out of it. I was, oh my God, this movie is amazing. I love it like crazy. And I do love it like crazy. And it has my favorite moment in movies of the year, which is, and I talked about this on our Wonder Woman review, which is, the famous scene when she gets up out of the trenches.
Oh yeah, we talked about it last week. It's the scene that I think everybody picks as like the scene of the year.
Which is amazing. And then it's funny, I don't think I've mentioned this on the podcast. So a week or two after I saw Wonder Woman, I went back to watch it again just because with certain kinds of movies that get to certain levels of hype, I kind of want to see them twice to just kind of shake off the hype and shake off the anticipation and just take them in for what they are, rather than just the jittery nerves of seeing them for the first time and trying to sort out the moments where hype and anticipation kind of clash. Anyway, I found myself walking out halfway through because it was just kind of like, or not halfway through, like 2/3 through, because it was just kind of like, all right, now she's going to have a fight with the big bad guy that is not interesting in any way.
That final fight is kind of a CGI cluster. Yeah,
which I'm not against CGI clusters, but I am against, boring punch fests.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. And I will freely, I can hear all of our listeners going, how the hell can you go on and on and on about Marvel movies and then turn around and talk about being bored of boring punch fests? I get it. I understand. There's something about DC punch fests that just bores me to tears in this current incarnation, and I've enjoyed the last couple punch fests from Marvel. What do you want me to do? The ones in Marvel seem to be kind of character and plot motivated. The ones in DC movies seem to be effects and spectacle motivated, and the spectacle is just not that impressive. So what do you want me to do? So, and then The Big Sick was also a runner-up. Not a runner-up, Dunkirk, which is not here.
Yeah.
The Disaster Artist.
Dunkirk wasn't even close to making my list.
I would have expected it. I almost want to go back and watch it again, away from all the hype and everything, to see if I can see what a lot of people seem to be seeing, but I don't know. War for the Planet of the Apes didn't make it. I expected to like it. I did like it, but it kind of faded from memory.
I liked it more than you.
The Disaster Artist.
Still haven't seen that one.
Which is fine. It's the making of a crappy movie. It's, I don't know why there's, I'm not sure if we talked about this on mic.
Is it any better than Ed Wood? Because Ed Wood's kind of a masterpiece.
No, it's not better. It's not worse. It's... I don't know if it's a masterpiece. It's not better, but it's it's interesting, and that movie is a weird strange.
I've
movie.
never seen The Room, so
Yeah,
that's
should
why
watch it.
That's why I don't feel like I need to run out and see.
Here's one thing.
Artist.
Yeah, here's one thing I would say. You do need to see The Room.
Yeah.
It is a different bad movie. It
Right.
really, and I think we've talked about this. I'm at the stage now where I don't watch bad movies on purpose just because I don't have the time, and I've seen.
Right.
I've done my Rocky Horror Picture Show penance or whatever. I got it. Manos Hands of Fate, seen it. But Plan 9 from Outer Space, etc. But
Right.
the disaster or The Room really is a different thing.
Okay.
So anyway, all right. So Sonia Mansfield.
Let's go through our 10. Let's sum it up for people.
I thought we already did that. I'm sorry.
No.
Okay, hit it.
So, in this episode, I talked about Glow and It, Lady Bird, The Shape of Water, and Logan. And last week, I talked about Wonder Woman, The Handmaid's Tale, Get Out, Big Little Lies, and Pod Save America.
And I am going to talk about my list here in a moment after I open up. All right, sorry. No. This week I talked about the Marvel movies, Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Man, Homecoming, Thor, Ragnarok. Thank you, Disney, for the check. Just kidding, you embittered bastards. Coco, good Lord, now that I'm looking at this,
Oh my God, there's a lot of Disney on here.
Maybe Disney is paying me. Jesus. Coco, Star Wars The Last Jedi, Blade Runner 2049, Get Out, and in last week's episode, I mentioned S-Town, Ken Burns' Vietnam documentary, Rick and Morty Season 3, the Dave Chappelle The Age of Spin, specifically. All right, so those are my choices. Those are your choices. Sonia Mansfield, is there anything else that you would like to say before we look ahead to 2018 and what's coming?
I'll just say goodbye.
Goodbye! The Dorking Out Show is on Twitter at Dorking Out Show, where you can also find me at Jet Juergens and Sonia at The Sonia Show.
And you can read all about my random adventures at my blog, thesoniashow.com, and track the slow, creeping process of Chris's novel and his other hijinks at jetjuergens.com.
Yeah, you know what? Go right over there right now and see how much is going on jetjuergens.com. Anyway, it'll be fun. It'll be like a trip back to 2016. Anyway, you can find out more about the Dorking Out Show at dorkingoutshow.com, and while you're over there, you can support us by giving us a review on Apple Podcasts. Please, for the love of God, for some reason, Apple Podcasts holds our destiny in their hands, so go over there and give us a rating, please. Sorry.
We would do it for you. We have a handy link on our website. It'll whisk you right over there so you could gush your love all over us.
This is disgusting.
It's disgusting.
Why did you write it like
I think
this, Sonia?
you wrote
I
it
didn't
like
write
that.
it like this. I don't write this.
We would gush love all over you and your podcast.
Yeah, we would do that. Anyway, point
Gushing.
is, I think we might be re-recording this here in a moment.
Gushing.
Jesus. What kind of podcast are you turning this into?
One that people will listen to.
This has been a presentation of Rocket Spots Media.